many times have you been in love?
You're always the most beautiful woman in the room.
Therese Belivet. Carol.
Tell me you know what you're doing.
I never did.
And then it changed.
She's still my wife. I love her.
I can't help you with that.
How did you get involved in this one? Was it an audition?
It was an audition.
Huh.
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't expect that from you now just because I like your household name.
I appreciate that. I think in the film world, when you have a movie that has two leading roles that are already occupied by very sort of famous women, I think when you have another role that's enough of something to chew on, every girl in town wants it because there are very few of them that are not already taken by very respectable, wonderful movie actresses like Rooney and Cate. So I think everybody was really thinking this is an opportunity to be in a Todd Haynes movie with two of the greatest actresses that are working today. So I auditioned. I flew myself to New York. I made a tape. I spent 45 minutes with Laura Rosenthal, the wonderful casting director who spent so much time with me. And I'm sure I handed a tape to Todd that was like 400 different ways you could play Abby.
Can you tell me about the tape process? Because I always wonder, what are the pros and cons of making a tape?
Well, I think there's terrible realities to tape making, and there's some definite benefits. I mean, the benefits are you can make a tape almost to your, total specifications and liking. However, the big problem with not having the director in the room is that I think one of the most telling things about an actor and what they're capable of is when they get a note and the director has an idea and an adjustment that they would like to see. And it's what you do with that as an actor, with that note, with that, how you filter what they're asking you to do, and then what it causes to come out of you is I think, a real testament to what you can do as an actor. And when you don't have that reality of a director saying, try it this way, and being able to execute it or not, I think it's a sort of disservice. And also I think there's something about being in a room. I know that film is a visual medium, so a tape should in fact stand in for anything that you could actually maybe do interpersonally with a director in terms of just talking to them as a human being. That part gets taken away, which I think sometimes is unfortunate. The reality of personalizing an exchange with another person by having one, in person. But at the same time, you can make it exactly the way you want it. But I don't know if that's better. I don't know. You can become very obsessive if you can watch it back and be like, oh, I didn't like that moment. Oh, I liked that moment. But, when you're actually shooting a movie or a television show, there's going to be moments in the scene. You rarely get, I think, a perfect take, whatever that even means. And that's sort of the beauty and the joy of the editing process, is that someone can go in and pluck out the things that are the finest things and make that look like it was all what you were doing across the board.
How is it reading this script for the first time? Because one of my favorite things about your character is, she's not in the movie all the time, but you still feel her presence from start to finish. So when you're flipping through the pages, are you like, my scene, my scene?
No, I didn't do that. There was one large scene of mine that's not in the final cut of the movie that was sad for me, not for me as an actress, but for me, for Abby as the character, because it was a wonderful scene between Rooney and myself in the kitchen right before Cate and Rooney start their road trip, where basically I'm meeting Therese for the first time, and I have a conversation with Therese where I basically say, what are your intentions with my friend? And I talk about Carol's fragility and that she better mind herself because Carol's more fragile than you might realize. And it was a very kind of an interesting scene for Rooney and I to play, and that sort of had a payoff in the diner when Rooney says to me, why do you hate me so much? And it comes from a previous scene where I'm very tough on her that we don't get to see as the audience because it's not in the movie. So that was painful. But at the same time, I think it gives Abby a nice, there's a little air of mystery about her where you don't really know what her story is, which I think is nice, but it was not crafted that way.
Is that a surprise to you when stuff like that happens, or do you get a heads up when it's a big scene like that?
I did get a heads up, so I knew, but it doesn't make it any less. And again, it's not from an ego place of an actor, of me as an actress. It was like, oh,
you worked
Abby,
so hard on something.
I did work on this, and it was a beautiful, I think, character moment between Therese and Abby that was, I think, informative for the audience.
I imagine it would have colored the character much differently too, because reading the book, you get the feeling that Abby's a little more jealous than she comes across in the movie, and that scene might have done that.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so that was sort of, I had read the book and reading the book, and then with the screenplay, there was definitely that element to it. There was another bit of scene with Cate when I'm in the bar where I basically asked her to be back together with me, and she turns me down. That was also sort of taken out of the scene. So some of my, I think the things that added the most texture to it are not in the movie. So
that's the beauty of DVD and Blu-ray special features menu.
Maybe Todd will put, that would be amazing.
She's still my wife, Abby. She's my responsibility.
That's some way of showing it, slapping her with an injunction. I'm closing the door.
I love her.
I can't help you with that.
It's all those things when it's not your story, because we're not telling the story of Abby. That could be the next movie.
I would be very
yes,
curious.
That's probably what they were doing, is saving all of it for Carol.
I would
sequel. It's called Abby.
The Carol franchise. I get it.
I think this movie has all the markings of the big franchise.
This might sound silly, but I wanted to ask about the scene where you're having the conversation with Cate and you're driving the car. Because driving and talking seems like a very natural thing for anyone to do, but when you're actually working and performing...
The real problem there was that I got a phone call from Todd saying, "Can you drive a stick shift?" Which my response was, "No, I can't." And he said, "Do you think you can learn?" And it was after I'd already gone to Cincinnati, and I was going to start shooting in 2 days, and I have to drive Cate around Cincinnati in this car. And it was a 1949 Packard that Todd fell so in love with the color of it, and he wanted that to be the color of my car. And so I had to learn to drive a 1949 stick shift. I do not drive a stick shift in life, and I was so I would go. Cate had driving lessons too, because we all, driving these cars, they're huge, they're like tanks, and of course she had to drive so much in the movie, but. It was really challenging going to this parking lot of this stadium somewhere, just doing going up, turning around, backing up, driving quickly, stopping, going from a stop to it. It was very nerve-wracking. I actually had to drive up that driveway to drop Cate off at Harge's parents' house for that party, and I had a mark I had to hit, and Ed Lockman, the DP, was like, "If you hit that mark, I'll give you $1." And I was like, "Oh, really? I'll get $1." I think I made $10 because I did hit that. I did hit the mark a bunch.
I'm very impressed.
I
feel
was
like
impressed.
that's
but
a good life skill to have too.
It was actually, although I think now.
You're only driving an Academy Award-winning actress in that car when you don't know how to drive a stick.
A second Academy Award 2 weeks before.
No pressure
at
all.
I was like, "Yeah, you want me to drive? Yeah, no problem. Totally drive the 1949 Packard with Cate Blanchett in front seat. No problem."
If he can't have me, I can't see my daughter. Everything comes full circle. We gave each other the most breathtaking of gifts.